Well, good day. Good day and welcome to Mental Health and You. I'm your host, Cynthia Timms. Well, as that great philosopher Rod Sterling would always say in various ways, welcome to the Twilight Zone. How you feeling in this new reality, in this new space we find ourselves as a people, as a country, as an individual? How are you navigating your health, your mental health, your physical health, your emotional health? To help me sort it out, if it's even possible, is my guest today, the renowned environmental artist and activist, Daniel Lanzilotta. You all know him. Give Daniel a big Bronxnet welcome. Welcome to Mental Health and You, Daniel.
Thank you, Cynthia. How are you?
Good, how are you?
In this new reality, you call it. I don't know if it's so new.
Oh?
I think it's just, it's always been this way. It's just come to
That's interesting.
coalesce.
It's not really so new,
It's not new at all.
but to those who think that, what can I say, America can't be this way, I think America is showing itself for who they are. It always been.
It's been like that since day one. So it's now in our face. It's being delivered differently, and
Yes.
it's open now.
Yes.
You might say the cat is out of the bag.
I chose to quote the great philosopher, as I put him, Rod Sterling, the creator of the Twilight Zone episodes, the classic Twilight Zone episodes that ran for so many years. Because in that series, there was always some alternate reality being featured.
Right.
There's always some lessons being taught, whether we get it or not. And I dare say, as a fan and as a writer, we're living in that type of reality now, whether it's new, whether it's old. But you're an artist. You're environmental, what you call environmental activist.
Yes.
But you're also a citizen, So how are you dealing? How are you going? Hasn't been too long.
No, it hasn't been too long.
And
but,
we're trying to deal with mental and as well as all types of our health here.
Right.
So how you doing, Daniel?
I was not shocked by the results, and I've been tracking this stuff for a long, long time. I'm not shocked at all. I'm just got physically ill when I kind of realized that Kamala wasn't going to be our president. And so I've been ready for this. We've been ready for this for forever with Donald Trump in New York City. He hasn't been a big, well-liked here from the get-go. But he's been baiting his base for the last 4 years. He's a genius at what he does. And those folks who support him are no different than who he is with his criminal record. So it's not shocking to me by who supports him. And the fact that he's, taking a sword to all the environmental laws and
We want to talk about the environment too.
All of these things, the civil rights laws. It's going to
Right.
get crazier and seems to be unbelievably not real, but this is a disruption, and when there's a disruption, there's also opportunities, and those opportunities have to be seized.
You said something interesting and very true. These are opportunities that need to be seized. I do believe this whole thing is meant to upset us not only physically and emotionally, it's meant to exhaust us.
Yes.
It hasn't even been that long.
Right.
By the time this show is aired, it'll be even less than a month.
Right.
But it's physically exhausting, and it's meant to be physically exhausting. Meant to be psychologically exhausting and emotionally exhausting.
Right.
But as activists, we realize that we have to keep on going because it's also an opportunity.
Right.
We got to rest, y'all. We have to rest, but we also have to get back up. What does that getting back up and those opportunities look like?
Well, it's a time for the other side that's not coherent. The Democratic Party is certainly not coherent, in my opinion. The Republican Party always is cohesive, no matter how bad it looks to the to outsiders. They will support a felon, right? I mean, he's a convicted felon. Even under those circumstances, they support him with all the criminality and the fraud and everything he stands for. They still stand by their man. And then on the other side, we don't do that. We're bickering, we're arguing, we're not paying attention. And so this is an opportunity now, in a disruption as it is, to coalesce and to be homogeneous and be like in emulsion. We have to take these two separate things, like oil and water, and we have to create a social emulsion that becomes one thing, and that is where the power will be. And we can't sit idle. So if you're going about your business, continue on, don't stop. Just keep living your life as you have been. Don't let anyone stop that. I mean, it seems to be he's trying to instill fear in communities that he's going after, and that will be very painful for some. And I see that, especially in the immigrant and migrant communities that will be affected by this tremendously. For a person like himself who comes from immigrants, right? It's just incomprehensible to me that he can do this. It's really kind of shocking in a way, but then again, it's not. This is who he is.
I suspect, Daniel, when you said he comes from a different type of immigrant, so immigrants that he's targeting doesn't look like him.
Right, and
they only work for him.
Right, right.
So maybe they're not seen as human.
They're not.
Or valued.
And his base...
Just a step above slavery.
Yes, it is. And he knows that. He knows exactly what he's doing. He's been this way his entire life. The man has not worked a single day in his life, so he wouldn't know how to relate to anybody who has to struggle at the levels that people struggle, or understand what the journey is to come here as a migrant, to come through the Darien Gap and suffer and walk through that. I've talked to these people. I've been with these people, and it's a brutal, brutal journey to come here. And now he has just put a big damper on anyone's dream of bettering themselves. Yes, there'll be elements of bad people, like in any group.
Right.
Right? There's no one's omitted from that. But people come here for a reason. They come here to better their lives. And to have somebody like him disrupt that is that's criminal to me.
Yes. Daniel, I called this episode Mental Health in the Midst in a Time of Chaos. Because it seems to me that this is really a time of chaos for so many.
And that's his
Even
game
those
plan.
of us who were born here.
Right.
Even though those of us who were born here of a certain melanin, of a certain skin tone.
Right.
Where we now we feel that our history is being denied. It's being scratched out of being scratched from the record books. It's being scratched out of the classrooms and the bookstores, from government. I read the other day where the federal government won't be even acknowledging Black History Month anymore.
Well,
So it's almost, is this to say that you didn't exist or you don't matter?
Well, it's the Black culture is American culture.
Yes.
So that's without question.
I mean, it's going to still be acknowledged, whether the federal government do it. We don't have to depend on it.
We don't need them.
Right.
Right? We don't need
that.
that.
But the audacity.
Right, to even suggest it. Let's put it this way. Those folks who are doing this, if you go into their kids' bedrooms, Beyonce is going to be, posters are on the wall. Mm-hmm. The music is going to still be playing. So this is just a charade and a game, a very mean game. But the fact of the matter, Black African-American culture is American culture. There's no way to separate it. You can never separate it. It's impossible. And unfortunately, we're in this situation. I call it a healing crisis. You get sicker before you get better. And that's what we're in. We're in a very difficult healing crisis, but I think at the end of the tunnel, there will be some kind of reconciliation and healing for people who have been traumatized by all of this.
And what will that healing, how does that healing look like? What does it look like?
Well, it'll be, I believe that on that Republican side, there'll be so much infighting among themselves that they'll just wear each other out, especially with somebody like Elon Musk, who comes from an apartheid culture. And he is a very unpleasant man. And he's the richest man in the world, but in reality, he's the poorest person I've ever seen in my life. He's pathetic. And so he's going to try to manipulate things in a way, because he's been funding a lot of this. And now I think he just went to Germany, if I'm correct, and he's trying to get that all riled up. But at the end of the day, Donald Trump is not going to allow him to take the center stage, and they're going to be infighting. There's going to be some horrible things going on behind the scenes that we won't see, and that will be their self-implosion. Because I believe when you have this kind of discourse, the best thing in a way is to let them fall under their own weight. You don't have to do anything to somebody. You don't have to retaliate. You don't have to get even, because those people who are coming at you with this kind of insanity are mentally ill, as you know, and they will just self-destruct. There's no other place to go with this. They don't understand the value of love, as Dr. Martin Luther King said, that we just celebrated. Like yourself, I was at BAM because I didn't want to be anywhere else.
Right. That's the Brooklyn Academy of Music, for the celebration of MLK Day. And we heard some really wonderful.
It was insanely beautiful.
Yes.
It was like, this is what it could be. This is what it could be. And it was a beautiful, beautiful thing, and that's what it should be, and that's where we're going to wind up going, regardless of what they think they're going to do. You can't crush. You can think you're crushing it, but you cannot destroy the spirit of a human being. That goes on.
You know, speaking of that spirit, I find myself in these times, we have to take heed of lessons from the ancestors as well.
Absolutely.
You know, those ancestors from the Montgomery bus boycott, who decided to use their economic freedom, their economics, their money to stay off the Montgomery bus line because they were being disrespected. And I think about some of these companies these days who are moving away from diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Yes,
you know,
they're going to be penalized.
They can do they can do as they will, but they're going to be penalized because guess what? We don't have to spend our money where we're not respected, like our ancestors did in Montgomery. They're not going to get on a bus where they cannot sit where they want to sit, where their humanity is not respected. You know, and as an artist and as an activist, that DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, that's important. You speak more of that, how it has played a place in your role, how it played if because it's involved in all of us.
Right.
I'm able to be here at Bronxnet. I'm able to work where I work. I'm able to walk in the streets that I walk in and do what I do because of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And the thing, we're not all benefactors of that in some way. You know, it's delusional. But my guess here,
yes,
as an artist, how will that be represented in your work?
This has been in my work since very early on.
Yes.
So it's a cultural thing of my own ethnicity, of a multicultural, multi-ethnic background. So I grew up in a household of DEI. It's not new to me. They just gave it a term. And yes, they're going to, block these types of things, and companies are going to be penalized. But at the end of the day, once again, you're not going to be able to separate it from the collective culture. It's not going to be possible. And the best thing is to be your own quiet activist. You don't have to say and make big announcements to anyone. You just go about your business And instead of going to that store, you go to the store in your neighborhood, and you get off the couch and you stop supporting these online shops where everything's delivered like in minutes. And you get off the couch, you walk down the block, and you support a black or brown business or a local business, wherever, whatever your community is, and keep the money in the community. And you don't have to make a grandstand about it. Just be quiet about it and just do your thing. And when that snowballs as a gigantic collective, it will have an impact.
Yes.
And these gigantic warehouses and trucks and the impact it has on the environment in so many levels will take notice, you know. And the Elon Musk, for instance, don't support any of it. He owns hundreds of companies. You don't even know what you're buying anymore. You don't know who you're supporting. Just keep it as local as possible. Reduce everything in your life to simplicity and keep it private. And just be your own quiet social activist and let that snowball, and it will have an impact, because the only thing they understand is the bottom line is money.
Right.
That's it.
The bottom
Green.
line, y'all, which is money. You know, mental health in you, as I said, I called this episode Mental Health in a Time of Chaos. But in that chaos, it's also important, y'all, to find some peace. You find your peace by finding your self-respect and your self-worth. What does that look like? What does that taste like? What does that feel like? You know, Daniel, you talked about being a quiet activist, shopping, but that you're quiet, but you're not quiet. You're doing it in a dignified manner.
Right.
You're doing it in a way that says, I'm respecting me and I'm respecting my ancestors that worked to get me where I am today.
Right.
You know, we've come a long way, y'all. We got a long way to go. And this is the battle that we have. You know, civil rights, human rights, we make progress and there's setbacks. There's ebbs and there's flows to it. You know, it wasn't supposed to be easy. You know, what I think about the ancestor, the activist, Frederick Douglass, you know, who said something to the effect that the oppressor will not just lie down. You know, the oppressor will just not give you anything. You have to work for it. You know, you have to demand it. So what does that look like?
For me, it's, you've heard the saying, silence is deadly. This is the time to use it. And that to use it, the oppressor will be very confused by that.
Yes.
If a collective block of people become one collective voice, knowing they're using silence,
Yes.
and becoming a personal, quiet activist, and using their power, their economic power, or whatever it may be, their art,
Yes.
to be a quiet activist without much fanfare, but a powerful collective force. And in that silence, the oppressor will be confused by, why are they so quiet? They won't know where you stand, but you know where you stand. And that's powerful. And that will be a way to use their energy against themselves.
Right.
And that's what we need to do. And we need to do it fast. It's not too late, and we can mobilize in ways that they will never understand, because we're using code, you might say.
Code, just like our ancestors back in the day. Harriet Tubman used
Yes.
code.
Yes.
Sojourner Truth used code. You know, Frederick Douglass used code. The most photographed man of the 19th century used photography as a way of activism, because he wanted us to be seen in something other than the oppressor was wanting us to be seen. You know, photography played a very important role in activism. The
And still
artist,
does.
and it still does. But that's a way. Think about, y'all, what can you do today? What can you do going forward in your way, in your quiet, dignified way? Maybe not so quiet, because you're going to be, you're going to feel good. You're doing something, you know. You're taking a stand. What does that look like to you? Are you a writer? Are you an artist? You get up and you go to work every day. You're taking care of your children. You're taking care of other people's children. Those same people who want to send you back to another country, but you're good enough to take care of their children and feed their children. Go figure that out, Daniel. You know?
I hear you.
You know?
I hear you.
So think about that. That quiet dignity going about your daily life. Not shopping in stores, as you saying, where you're not respected.
Cook at home, have friends over, make art, bake.
Cook at home, you said, Daniel?
Yeah,
okay.
Cook at home.
Okay.
If somebody in your building
that's going to require a special type of something.
It's just
cook at home. Yes.
You have to start building community in a building that you live in. Maybe you don't even know who lives in your building. Maybe
in the building you live in,
right.
Yes.
Start there. Start with maybe that person that you walk by every single day is not doing too good, and you might just slide a note under their door or something. But keep it local as possible, and if you feel that something isn't right about something that you're purchasing or a subscription you have to something, cancel it. Get rid of it.
Yeah.
And redirect your money into community organizations and funds that will help benefit the community at large. This has got to stop. It will stop because, like I said, it comes down to they got there because they have a lot of money. Donald Trump knew exactly what he was doing and how he campained,
but he
and
said
the fact that the tech industry
he said
supported
he knew
him.
nothing about Project 25.
Of course, he doesn't know anything about anything.
I'm joking. Okay.
Of course, I saw him say. I heard him say that several times,
Mm-hmm.
and that's how he does it. He's a very shrewd guy, and he comes across sometimes as not so smart, but he is smart, and think about it. He's won 2 elections, a second term.
Well, that's interesting.
And he's not a politician.
I don't think he's that smart at all. He's smart like a fox. He is, maybe a wolf.
He's got something going on, and he knows exactly how to speak and operate.
I think he's more like the puppet, and there's puppeteers pulling his strings.
Of course, it's part of that's part of being a politician. But he knows how to do this. He's been doing it a long time. But the saving grace is, I believe he's 78 years old, and he's not getting more time. He's getting less time. Let's put it that way.
Speaking of time, in this time that we have left, what are you doing? Is there someplace that people can find you on?
On Daniel Lanzilotta on Instagram. And I'll be going up to Albany with Beyond Plastics on Tuesday to advocate for a reduction in packaging. And then, of course, there's the one with Bronxnet at the end of February, right? I believe it is. I'll be there for that, supporting Bronxnet. I'm going to have a solo show up in Bridgeport, Connecticut in November. And that'll be a very interesting show because we're going to try to make that a citywide theme about plastics. And Bridgeport, Connecticut is, I would say, it's a black and brown community. And in Bridgeport, Connecticut, there is an incinerator. Mm-hmm. And Bridgeport, Connecticut also happens to be at sea level on Long Island Sound. Okay. And that's a separate issue right there. But I wonder why that incinerator was built there in the first place. And we know why. Mm-hmm. And it's very toxic and very bad. And so we're going to try to have a citywide environmental awareness show in Bridgeport in November. So we're working on that. And there's a possibility, I'm not quite sure where we stand yet because we're still talking about it, at Queens College.
Queens College. Okay. Okay, but they can go on your...
Instagram is the best.
Okay, and what is that again?
Or DanielLanzilotta.com. That's true, too.
Daniel Lanzilotta. You know, Daniel, it's always wonderful to have you as a guest on Mental Health and
Thank
you. You know, you do know how to bring it. You know, you're right up there with Rod Sterling, as far as I can say.
Yes.
You know? You are, really. I'm not just,
Yeah,
you
it's the
are.
Twilight Zone.
Yes. And I want to thank Bronxnet and the staff of Bronxnet for giving us this wonderful opportunity and the experience of mental health in you. Now, what are you doing for your mental health in these days? I'll bring that all again. In the midst of chaos, what are you doing for your mental health, your spiritual health, your emotional health? How you're taking care of yourself? You're being an activist. You're being an artist. To me, they're both the same. Artists are activists, whether you believe it or not, whether you embrace that or not. And yes, join some, if it's possible, join an organization, be part of something good that represents how you feel, that's fighting for a cause that is important to you. Our ancestors are watching. Those who come after us are dependent on us. We're dependent on ourselves because we're living in this world. For mental health in you, this is Cynthia Timms. Take care of yourself. Mental health in the midst of chaos. But what are we doing? Thank you so much, beloved. Peace.
Hey, boss. Okay?
Yeah, I'm good.
You sure?
I said I'm fine.
Since I was little, it was only like me and my parents.
You think you created family out of characters?
Yeah, of course.
I'm gonna take that and make it into a song.
Put me to bed, see you in the morning. With the frosted Superman, but it wasn't on it. And we lost it. In my head, in my head, in my head. Where you at, where you at on the way out? In my head, in my head, in my head.
Hey, son.
Hey, Pop.
You can talk to me.
It's been really, really hard for me.